Okay, this time we're going to call to order a budget hearing of the Franklin County Board of Commissioners on Friday, June the 18th, 2021 at 6 o'clock p.m. at the Franklin County Justice Center in Carnesville, Georgia. And we just note for record, we have a quorum consisting of all 5 commissioners present for this afternoon's hearing. So we want to welcome everyone and thank you for coming. The purpose of this afternoon's hearing is to present the proposed fiscal year 2022 budget for the county. This is the third budget hearing that we've held, and we'll also receive public comments on the budget tonight. At this time, we need to approve tonight's hearing agenda with an amendment adding item 3B, public comment. So at this time, is there a motion to approve tonight's hearing agenda with the addition of item 3B, public comment?
I'll make a motion that we approve tonight's agenda with adding for public comment, section 3B.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Swells has made a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of item 3B, public comment. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Foster seconded the motion. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to approve the agenda with the addition of item 3B, public comment, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Okay, the motion will carry 4-0, and tonight's agenda is approved as amended. So the first item, or the next item on the agenda is 3A, the proposed budget for fiscal year 2022. So I'm going to turn that over to our county manager, Mr. Turner, to present that to us.
All right, thank you. So first thing, just with commissioners, I just want to introduce our new accountant, staff accountant on board, Ms. Gabriella Aguilar, right behind us. I think most of you had a chance to briefly meet. So as we're going through the budget, there's only been a couple slight changes. What we'll talk about tonight as far as the overall budget is just looking again at revenues, expenditures. We'll talk about the COLA. We have one other item within the budget, transportation, talk about a bit. And we will just talk about millage rate. We won't be voting on millage rate tonight. That will happen in July when Digest is out. We'll schedule a meeting at that particular time for it. So first thing, just looking at revenues, there was a slight adjustment to revenues as we got more information and we're able to better project what we're looking at for revenues as far as the upcoming fiscal year. Revenues broken down by fund. With the general fund at $15,540,170, the E911 fund at $978,000, the probate fund at $775,000, SPLOST 5 at $3,350,050, the water fund at $2,379,440, and the solid waste fund at $105,000, with the subtotal of all your revenue funds being at $23,127,660. So that's going to be a slight adjustment up from where we were within the first couple of hearings. As we flip to look at expenses, same format, but starting at the general fund at $15,540,170. The E911 fund at $923,250, the probate fund at $787,950, SPLOST 5 at $2,364,000, the water fund at $3,291,620, and the solid waste fund at $90,610. So you have a subtotal of all your expenses by fund of $22,997,600. So you'll see the difference within that. It's just over $23 million within your revenues, and just under $23 million with your expenses. So just a little bit of wiggle room there within that, and that number could change a little bit. I would imagine, just depending upon the volume of industry that we're able to bring in. We know that the housing developments that we do have on the docket could impact that, but without knowing sort of exact time frames as to when any of those may be started and or completed, we're going to give a minimal effect to the projection of those. We want to just budget conservatively and just make sure that we're being safe as far as what that number is. So there could still be that chance within the fiscal year that we do finish above either one of these numbers. If we finish higher on revenues, then there always is the possibility of finishing higher on expenses, but that's okay as long as we're still over revenues over expenses. Any revenue or expenditure questions?
Commissioner? Okay.
One decision that we do have to make tonight as far as expenditures that we talked about, this does not take a vote, but we can pretty well just say that it's something we want to pursue. We did have a presentation from Enterprise about vehicles. We technically have that money in the budget of about $150,000 that we're using for capital outlay. What that would be is just be a shift if we wanted to pursue that to where we're looking at just shifting that $150,000 and using it towards that type of contract. Again, this isn't something that we necessarily have to do, like you've heard within the presentation. It would just be an option as we're looking at the renewal of our vehicles with lease agreements, something that currently Livonia does use. I know the question was asked if we partnered with Livonia, would that get us a better rate? But that answer to that is, since it's on state contract, there is not necessarily a better rate that we would get through that. They'd be purchasing through the state contract, replacing vehicles. But we can have discussion about that if you like, if that's something that we want to talk about, or if that's something that we want to venture into.
How do y'all feel about using Enterprise versus continuing the way we've been doing?
Yeah, would that include law enforcement vehicles also?
Yes.
I would be in favor of it.
And essentially kind of what we can look at it is we can scale back exactly what the magnitude of sort of our purchasing agreement is. We don't necessarily have to say that we're going to spend all $150,000 budgeted towards that if we don't want to. It's a little bit more of a flexible program to where if we said we only wanted to spend $90,000 within their programming, they'll spend $90,000. So it's just one thing to kind of think about, but it could be something that would be beneficial to take a look at and kind of continue down that road as we are continuing within the fiscal year. It can also be allocated towards that. We don't necessarily have to be in a contract with them July 1st. So there could be little potential savings there as we're looking at things as far as timing wise when we want to replace vehicles. And we have that option too of what those vehicles are. But if that is something that the commissioners do want to take a look at, then we can still engage discussions with Enterprise and start to make a shift in that direction if we feel appropriate.
How, Commissioner Franklin, what do you think about using Enterprise versus?
Well, I guess the question, the older cars, what do we do with? Do they take them? Is a certain model, or can we sell them? You know,
right.
Because sometimes you can take them up there to the young farmer sale and they bring pretty good bucks.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to give them to them. You know what I'm saying? I want something for them.
Right.
But is there a certain year model where they start, or do you know?
Yeah, so they'll start with our older vehicles. So any of the oldest vehicle, I couldn't tell you the year necessarily what that oldest is right now. With any of our vehicles, they should be going through the Gov Deals channel for the resale of those, with us collecting the proceeds of those. So more of the Enterprise model is more reselling them quickly, a little bit quicker. So instead of us holding onto a vehicle for 15 years, 300,000 miles, and we get $500 for it, their model is a little bit more. We're going to get 75,000 miles on it and resell it, maybe 75% of what that original value was. But again, this is something that is.
How much would we potentially make through Gov Deals on the resale? How many cars do we expect to replace for that 150,000 potentially, and then how much revenue would that bring in that maybe we could use to replace even more? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Right now we were talking about 8 to 9 vehicles right now. Now with Gov Deals, typically just for the life that we keep our vehicles, we're probably looking at making minimal amounts of
right.
Gov Deals. The only other way to really make money within that is secondary market for another government, which will sometimes get a call about that every once in a while, especially with your specialty vehicles like with an ambulance. There's not a market within gov deals for something like that, but if you can sell that to another smaller government, that might be something where they're getting a used vehicle, whereas they can't necessarily replace with a new vehicle at the type of frequency that a larger government can do.
Okay.
And we can't always scale how many vehicles we want to do. It's like I said, it's a flexible programming to where we can dictate exactly how many we're looking to do a year. So if we feel we want to go higher in a further year, we can do that. If we feel like we want to go lower, we can also do that as well.
So this first year might be a hybrid where we're doing some of our cars on Enterprise, but would we still purchase other cars outside of that agreement or arrangement?
I would say we should go strictly through Enterprise.
Strictly through Enterprise.
Unless there's emergencies where we have the need for it. They can still give us vehicles if there was a more emergent need, but I'd probably say it might be a better idea to go through Enterprise if we're going to go that route.
Okay. Mr. Foster?
I'm in favor of that idea.
I was just curious, and we might have mentioned it in the past. Did Lawrenceville have this type of arrangement? Do you know?
We actually spoke to them. We did not, so I formulated an in-house plan similar to that to replace all vehicles in a 10-year period. But obvious differences within the money constraints make it a little bit easier for them to be able to do that. So we budgeted about $1.2 million a year for replacement of vehicles, and I think that came out to about maybe 27, 28 vehicles that we were able to replace per year.
How long has Livonia been using Enterprise? Is this the first year?
This is the first year.
And how are they happy with it, or?
Yeah, speaking to the city manager, they've been happy with it to this point. I don't necessarily see any reason that they would change and feel differently from that. I think overall, every time I've spoken to them about it, so they're actually the ones that referred me to their rep.
Well, when we begin that, are we locking ourselves into more than 1 year, or can we do it for 1 year and decide we don't like that?
Yeah, we can do it for 1 year and decide if we want to do that. We don't necessarily have to be locked into anything.
Okay. Mr. Franklin, you feel like that's a good thing for us to do? It seems like there's a consensus then among the board to do it for this year.
Okay, well, I'll continue with that. Like I said, it's not a change in the overall budget. That money is currently in the general fund, so it would just be a shift of accounts. So the general fund will still remain at that current budget.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
All right. Just one other item that we do have to discuss is currently within the budget, there is $450,000 that's projected for a COLA raise for the staff. So that's approximately 3.5%. So really just the decision towards that is, do we want to continue to leave that in? Do we want to see a shift in that number, or how we'd like to proceed with that?
How do we feel about?
I'm good with it.
Okay.
You said it's currently already
It is.
the 3.5.
That's right. So that one in the budgets that you had earlier in the earlier meetings is under salary adjustments. If we say that we are going to go forward with that, we'll then disperse that to the individual departments to reflect within their line items.
Okay.
We just separated it for the purposes of being able to identify exactly what it is to be able to, and then we'll go through and make sure that it's spread throughout everyone.
Okay. Mr. Franklin? Good with it?
I'm
Mr.
good with
Foster? Okay. Seems like the consensus is we keep that. Okay.
And just one item, just to make mention of, this is not something, again, that we would be voting on tonight, but just something that we'll continue to talk through, and we will have a meeting in July for, is just talking about the millage rate. Currently with our millage rates, the thought of being rolled back, or do we remain the same, or do we increase the millage rate? So that'll just be a decision that we'll have to make at that time, but nothing that we have decision for at this particular moment. So currently with the incorporated being at 11.7 and the unincorporated being at 10.553. So we talked about figures of looking at equalization. We've also talked about figures with quarter rollback and what those mean for us. But again, that's not a decision that we have tonight, but just as a general info to keep in mind. Next month we'll set up a meeting for the village to make that decision. And that'll, depending on where that is within that decision, then that'll have whatever impact to the budget. So if we do have a rollback of portions of the budget for an amendment, if we're going to stay the same, then pretty well everything's set as is. If there happens to be an increase to it, then we'll still just take a look at what that impact is as far as the revenue, if there's anything else that needs to be amended within the budget.
Okay.
And I think that's everything that I have for this. I believe that's just again current military.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Turner? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. All right, at this time, we're going to open the floor for public comment, and the purpose of this public comment section is to give citizens a chance to give us input about the proposed budget and make comments. This is not really a question and answer session, make comments, but if you have questions, we'll be glad if you'll write those down with your contact information and give them to the clerk. We'll try to get back to you and answer specific questions. When you come up to the podium, please start by giving your name and address so that the clerk can write that down. Each speaker will have up to 5 minutes, and we have a timer so that you can refer to that and kind of pace your remarks. Each person may only speak once, and you cannot yield unused time to another person. Tonight, all comments must be limited to the proposed budget, which is the topic of the public hearing. Persons that wish to speak on other topics can do so at the special called meeting following this hearing. And just remember, members of the public are required to follow the same rules of decorum as the commissioners. That means using respectful civil discourse and avoiding personal attacks. And members of the public may not interrupt while someone else is speaking. So at this time, if you'd like to make a comment, if you'll raise your hand, we'll have you come up one at a time. Does anyone want to make a comment about the budget? Anyone? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move to the next item, which is announcements. Mr. Turner, do you have any announcements? No. Commissioners? Any announcements? Okay. Thank you, Commissioners. At this time, we're going to adjourn the public hearing, and we'll start the special call meeting at 6:30. That's approximately 12 minutes. So without objection, we stand adjourned. Thank you. All right, at this time, we're going to call to order a special called meeting of the Franklin County Board of Commissioners on Friday, June the 18th of 2021 at 6:30 p.m. at the Franklin County Justice Center in Carnesville, Georgia. We want to welcome everyone and thank you for coming tonight. We note for the record again that we have a quorum consisting of all 5 commissioners present, so welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. At this time, we're going to have an invocation given by Commissioner Wester, and then afterwards we ask everyone to remain standing and join us in the pledge to the flags. Please stand.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you right now, Lord, for all of your many blessings, Father, and we thank you for looking over each one of us in Franklin County, Lord. We thank you for blessing Franklin County, and we just ask that you just continue to look over us, bless us, and protect us, Lord. Father, I just pray that you would be with us as we make decisions tonight, Lord, that we would seek your guidance and your wisdom in all decisions made, that they would benefit the citizens of this county, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This time, Commissioners, we need to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting. We have 2 additions. We're going to want to add item 5D, which is the Indigent Defense Agreement, and item 5E, which is a prosecuting attorney counsel reimbursed personnel contract. So at this time, do we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda with the addition of the added 2 items?
I'll make a motion that we approve tonight's agenda with the added 2 items, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Wester's made a motion to amend and approve the agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Commissioner Franklin has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve tonight's agenda with the addition of item 5D, Indigent Defense Agreement, and item 5E, Prosecuting Attorney Counsel Reimbursed Personnel Contract, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. The motion will carry 4-0, and tonight's agenda is approved as amended. All right, the next item on the agenda is public comment. So at this time, we're going to open the meeting for public comment. During this portion of the meeting, any member of the public may speak to the board on any topic of concern they would like to address to the board. Because we aren't really able to prepare for questions and topics ahead of time, this is primarily a comment section. But if you have questions and you want to write those down with your contact information and give them to the clerk, Ms. Finger, we will have somebody get back with you in the coming days and try to answer your concerns. And again, we try to include this statement every time we do public comment. We can't really engage in any kind of discussion of any pending planning and zoning items. There's always something coming down the pike. And so if you have questions or comments about that would be more appropriate to address at the planning and zoning hearing that's designated for that. And that's so that everybody, including the petitioners, the applicants, have the opportunity for due process. When you come up to the podium, please start by giving your name and address. We do have a sign-up sheet, but you don't have to sign up ahead of time, but we'll call for people as they come. Each person can speak once, and you may not yield unused time to another person. Each person will have up to 5 minutes if you wish, and the clerk has a timer which you'll be able to see to pace your remarks. Members of the public are required to follow the same rules of decorum as the commissioners, and that just means respectful civil discourse and avoiding any personal attacks or any unseemly displays. All comments should be addressed to the chair, and members of the public cannot interrupt or make additional comments while someone else is speaking. At this time, we want to start with the person who signed up, Sue Young. So, Ms. Young, if you want to come up to the podium.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that's what that was for. I thought everybody had to sign in, so I signed that paper. But thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. So you don't want to come up?
No.
Okay, that's okay. You're welcome to if you want to. Okay. Well, we'll try to. I'll have the county manager talk to you. Or do you want to come on up?
Well,
Okay.
I'll tell you what.
Okay.
I'm too young, of course, and I live at 33 Deer Business State Road. And it concerns alcohol sales. We have went a long time in Franklin County without alcohol sales. I grew up in a home with my dad drinking liquor, beer, anything he didn't have to get his hand on. He made my life miserable. So do we want to have that to happen in our county and in our children's home? Some of those children we have here are special needs children. Can you imagine a father that was mean to a special needs child because he was drinking? And how much is alcohol going to help our county? And that's all I'm going to right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay. Anybody else that wants to speak? If you raise your, come on up.
I'm Wayne Young, 33 Deer Meadow State Road. And I've talked to some people about this. Right now it's not too bad. Those trucks, when they get that bridge put back in across the interstate, coming up 198, they come through our 24/7s, wide open, Jake Brace just screaming. And I've talked to the state patrols, I've talked to the county about putting some radar on that road to keep them fellas slowed down where they don't have to use all that Jake Brace. But it ain't happened yet. Right now it's not bad on county, they can't come up through there. They come in from the north, come off from Martin Bridge Road down through there. And you can be running 60 miles an hour coming down through there, and they'll come up behind you, try to push you on down the road.
Yeah.
And there ain't no sense in that. And they're way overweight. You can take a CB radio and get up there where they can't see you and listen at them. They'll be talking back and forth to each other. One of them say, well, I had 95,000. One of them say, I had 110,000. Them roads is not made for that type of weight. Somebody done put out a slew of money one of these days for the roads to rebuild them roads. And it won't be that master plan, it'll be Franklin County. Just that plain and simple. For the state. It's a state road, which they should man it, but they are not doing it. And they're coming across Gooseberry Bridge Road, that dirt road. When they get lost in there, they'll come across there and come up by the house. That is a definite no-no, because the road ain't made for that. That's all I got to say about it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Turner, I know we've done this over and over in the past, but can we get with GRP? Because before they said, yes, we'll stop them, particularly from speeding and using the Jake brakes. But can we look at that again and talk to them and see what we can do?
So I'm going to be scheduled with them July 1st.
Okay. All right. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone want to speak? Okay. Hearing no one else, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, and that's 5A, the fiscal year 2022 budget adoption. So at this time, I'm going to ask our county manager to present that budget once again and make a recommendation.
All right, so again, we're just going to briefly talk about revenues and expenses as we go through the budget. We talked about the general fund, E911, probate, SPLOST 5, the water fund, and our solid waste funds that we outlined earlier by cost or by revenue in this case. With the subtotal of all funds being $23,127,660. And going through the expenses for the same fund categories: general, E911, probate, SPLOST 5, water, solid waste fund. A subtotal of all funds comes to $22,997,600. So again, either a balanced budget or revenues over expenditures for our overall budget. So the recommendation for the county would be to approve the budget, approving each of these funds for revenue and expenditure. You have the resolution in front of you that indicates that with these numbers. But my recommendation would be for us to approve the budget with these fund revenues and fund expenditures.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Turner. Commissioners, do you have questions for Mr. Turner? Any? Okay, at this time, you have the resolution in front of you, and it basically lists each of those fund balances and on the revenues and expense side. So at this time, is there a motion to adopt the resolution for the fiscal year 2022 budget as recommended by the county manager?
I'll make a motion that we approve the fiscal year 2020 budget as recommended by our county manager with anticipated revenues and expenses.
Okay, and that would be adopting the resolution?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Commissioner Swells has made a motion to adopt the resolution for the fiscal year 2022 budget as recommended by the county manager. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Foster has seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion? Any other questions? Now would be a good time. Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the motion to adopt the resolution for the fiscal year 2022 budget as recommended by the county manager, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. The motion will carry 4-0, and the fiscal year 2022 budget is adopted by resolution. All right, thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is the moratorium extension. We had a special called meeting on April 6, 2021, and at that time, the Board of Commissioners imposed a moratorium on conditional use permit applications for large industrial uses that was effective immediately, and that was April 6th, and extended to June the 30th, 2021. During this time, while the moratorium is in effect, the county has been working on a revision specifically of the commercial industrial section of the zoning regulations of Franklin County. This work is ongoing, and our Planning and Zoning Commission actually considered a draft of that proposed revision at their most recent meeting, which was last night. The current plan is for our Planning Director, Scott Delosier, to present a draft of that revision to the Board of Commissioners at the June work session. However, we won't be able to approve anything until our next regular meeting on July 12th, 2021. Since this will be after the moratorium expires, we want to consider tonight a resolution that would extend the moratorium until July 15, 2021, so that the moratorium remains in effect until a final revision is approved. That way the moratorium doesn't run out before we have a new ordinance in place. After this revision is eventually adopted, hopefully, We're going to continue to work on revising our entire zoning regulations, but that's a much bigger project that may take another 6 to 9 months. But we felt like I think the commercial industrial section was the first place to start. So, commissioners, you've been given a copy of this resolution. At this time, is there a motion to adopt the resolution that extends the current moratorium on conditional use permit applications for large industrial uses until July 15, 2021?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we adopt this resolution for the moratorium extension through July 15, 2021.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Wester has made the motion that we adopt this resolution. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Foster seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion or questions? None. Hearing none. All in favor of the motion to adopt the resolution extending the current moratorium on conditional use permit applications for large industrial uses until July 15th, 2021, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. The motion will carry 4-0, and this resolution extending the moratorium to July 15, 2021 is adopted. All right, the next item on the agenda is 5C, alcohol sales. For the last few months, the board has discussed in several meetings the possibility of holding a public referendum on the question of whether or not to allow alcohol sales in the unincorporated areas of the county. Right now, alcohol sales are permitted only in cities, and state law allows counties to hold a binding referendum on the question of Sunday sales of alcohol and package stores. This law that sets up that referendum presupposes that regulation of alcohol sales already occurs in the county prior to holding a referendum, and it does not in Franklin County. We don't have any ordinance that regulates alcohol sales. So to be in compliance with the law before considering calling for referendum, we would consider tonight the first reading of a new ordinance that regulates alcohol sales in the unincorporated areas of Franklin County. Under this ordinance, and we'll have a draft copy that's available for inspection at the county office, no applications for licenses for alcohol sales would be received prior to January the 1st, 2022, after any successful public referendum on alcohol sales. So our plan tonight is to have a first reading. We're basically introducing this proposed ordinance, and then we would consider whether or not we would adopt it at our August the 2nd, 2021 regular board meeting. At the same time, we would then consider adopting resolutions that call for referenda on alcohol sales that would be on the ballot for November this fall. All right, so I'm going to ask our county manager if he wants to further present this, and if our attorney is on Zoom, I'm not sure if he is, but anyway, he can present it, and if there are questions, we can try to answer those.
Just to briefly go through a few things, we have had these as discussions, and the thought of alcohol sales for the county is based generally on the fact that we do have it within the cities. This does give us the opportunity to look at, number one, a couple things for us within the county. Things like tax diversification would be something that we would have. There's not just an overwhelming, at this time, even with the passage of it, there's not an overwhelming necessarily revenue, but it gives us the opportunity for revenues in the future. Say, for instance, with the interstate and being able to put in restaurants, this will be a basis for the attractiveness of restaurants and other types of businesses that would be able to come within the county. The things that we would look at within that is we'll put in ordinances in place as we do have this rewrite that do help us with regulation towards that. We're not saying that we would absolutely make this an easy venture for someone to get that permit or whatever the case is for alcohol sales, whatever type it may be. But this will be something that we would put ordinances in place for the sake of regulation. Just to make mention of kind of who we are, where we stand as far as dry counties. It's currently four counties within the state out of our 159 that are dry counties within Georgia. There's actually only, I believe it's 8 or 9 states that actually have dry counties within the U.S. But just as I took a look at what the dry counties are and their growth numbers projected right now, for the past census. As you can see, the counties typically do not grow. And some of that can be the attractiveness of business. It's not an absolute apples to apples comparison, but it does give some semblance of what that does mean for their counties, especially with a couple of them being near Valdosta or Savannah, type of areas that typically do have relative growth for the metro areas. So as we're sort of thinking about the thought of wet versus dry again, with our cities having alcohol sales, then I mean, even though we are technically listed as a dry county, we're not necessarily a dry county, being that the cities within the county have alcohol sales. So that would just be something to think about within that. And also, too, within the thought of this, we would be working in conjunction with the cities. I would recommend we don't pass anything that would supersede what the cities are currently doing. So as we go through that evaluation and have a referendum, if possible, that would be something we would also work with the cities to make sure that we're not causing confusion by superseding any laws or ordinances that they currently have. So we would want to make sure that we're staying in line with essentially the way that they do things. So that would be just a little bit of an effort to make sure that we're on board with how they are operating. I did speak to most of the cities yesterday, and they are on board with that. I did tell them the recommendation would be that we do not supersede any of their laws or ordinances towards alcohol sales. It's just a quick graphic. This shows ACCG's alcohol sales survey. So again, this just does give us the opportunity for different variations of alcohol sales. Again, we would want to get with the cities to make sure that we're kind of in line to what they're doing, so that we're not causing confusion or superseding things that they're doing. But again, with us being one of 4 counties within the state that are dry counties, so to speak, this would just be an opportunity, I think, for us to take a look at it and see if there's the valuation versus the citizens, if they think this would be something that would be good for the county.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have questions?
I do.
Okay.
How could this be good for Franklin County?
Tax diversification would be one thing for us, and also the attractiveness of businesses. So an opportunity that we could have would be, say, for instance, like Exit 164 that currently has nothing on it, would be an opportunity where we could attract restaurants down the line. And I don't say that this is a case where we pass this and it starts in January and we have restaurants January 2nd, but it gives the opportunity to where, as they do see that we are available as a county, we probably have a little bit better interest at that point.
Do we have any projected, revenues we might get from this, or what surrounding counties, what kind of revenues they get from it?
It's hard to project with extreme accuracy. As I've kind of talked to the cities just a little bit, I guess the gauge could be that it could be in the realm of anywhere from, I'd say, $250,000 all the way up to $1 million, depending on volume and the volume of restaurants or whatever the business is that's there, and the type of business too. So there could be that type of opportunity.
What kind of license fees would be proposed under this ordinance? So, if I'm a business, I want to sell alcohol, what do I have to go through? What do I have to pay to do that, to get a license?
I think that'll be something that we evaluate as we go through the UDC on the overall. But again, I think with this, it's a situation where you want to make that licensure as difficult as you can. It can't be a situation where we're saying it's a $20 permit fee and that's what you come in with. You want to be able to come in with solid facts. We'll talk to a couple counties to see what that model looks like as far as how they're doing those things, to see if we can model some of the more strict measures, because we don't want that to be something, you don't want that to be the same type of process as, like, say, building, to where maybe it's a little bit easier for you to construct a building per se, but you don't want that type of ease whenever you're talking about getting into the permitting for alcohol.
So I was in the ordinance, what I was referring to, I guess, some of the fees, to get alcohol, depending on what kind of alcohol you sell. And I'm not an expert in that, but it might be $1,200 to $4,000 or $5,000 for a yearly license. I guess that's what I was.
Oh, I got
but I don't know the exact.
Yeah, so that will depend on what passes, and then what we're able to do. So that's kind of getting into the beer wine versus the liquor. So when you have the variations between that, it'll be a little bit difficult to say without us having passed exactly what that's going to be. We can still get some models though to it from the board. It would be difficult.
You have anything, Commissioner Lester? Okay. Well, this is the first reading, so we're just introducing this ordinance. It is a long ordinance, and we will have a copy available for anybody who wants to inspect it and look at that. Is that something we can put online too? Yes. Okay, so that you can access it online and read the ordinance, because it is detailed. Again, it's as written, would not take effect. It would take effect technically the moment we adopt it, but the county would not receive any applications for alcohol sales until January the 1st, which would follow the referendum. Because I think the commissioners, our desire has been, based on the discussions, that we ask the public, do you want alcohol sales? Is that correct?
You didn't have a discussion with me, because I sure don't want it.
Well, we discussed it at several meetings, and you said that you don't want it.
I don't think this county needs it.
Right, and I respect that.
I don't see where it's going to help one thing except people getting killed because of some drunk, not somebody high. I'm talking about somebody drunk. Well, where did he get it at? In the rural Franklin County. So I'm not for it one bit.
Okay.
Because it's like the lady said, it's more trouble than it's worth.
Any other comments by commissioners? Okay. Oh, did you want to say?
I'll just keep my opinion to myself.
Okay, thank you. The next item is 5D, the Indigent Defense Agreement. So I'll let the county manager speak to that.
And with that resolution that you have for the indigent defense, basically this is our defenders contract that we renew year over year. We do have some form of funding that goes to them pretty minimally, but they're just this is just essentially a 1-year renewal towards their funding that we have. So this would just be a resolution that we would ask to pass so that we are executing having funding for the public defense.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize I had 5 copies. So y'all have that in front of you. And this is pretty short, so I'll just read it while we're waiting to give everybody a chance to look at it. It says, whereas the law requires that legal representation be provided to indigent citizens who are accused of crimes, and whereas the 5 counties which comprise the Northern Judicial Circuit have concluded that the provision of the indigent defense can be best accomplished through a combined program which serves all 5 counties, whereas details of the said plan are embodied in an agreement between the counties, a copy of which is attached hereto and incorporated herein by this reference. Now therefore be it resolved that the attached indigent defense agreement is hereby adopted and approved as written, and the chairman is authorized and directed to affix his signature. So at this time, is there a motion that we adopt this resolution for the public defenders?
I'll make the motion that we adopt the resolution for the public defenders.
Indigent defense agreement, I guess is the way the technical word. That's okay. All right, thank you. Commissioner Foster has made a motion that we adopt this resolution approving the indigent defense agreement. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Franklin has seconded the motion. Any discussion? All in favor signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. The motion will carry 4-0, and the resolution for the public defenders or the indigent defense agreement is adopted. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the prosecuting attorney counsel reimbursed personnel contract. So I'll let you talk to us about that.
So this is, I guess, on the other side of the table here with the prosecutors agreement. So this is the DA's offices. So again, another funding execution for us, same as the indigent defense. So we do have funding that goes towards both of those, just like with indigent defense, with being able to have a defender for you within court. The prosecutorial side of that, we have an agreement that in that same fashion that the prosecutors would be available when needed.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have questions about this? And again, this is approving the contract. Is this something that we approve each year?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve this contract for the Prosecuting Attorney's Council?
Make a motion that we approve the contract, Prosecuting Attorney's Council.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Swales has made a motion that we approve the contract. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Swales has made a motion that we, or seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve this contract, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. The motion will carry 4-0, and the contract is approved. Okay. All right. The next item on the agenda is announcements. Mr. Turner, do you have any announcements for us?
Yes.
Okay.
So with the, I'm sure everybody's aware with Memorial Day that we did have an event that was, widely popular and more popular than the normal years, I think, with celebrating our veterans. Our plan is that the county would like to get into looking at community development and doing special events. So with that, we're looking at the potential of partnering with the cities, and we've started these discussions with them to have an event on November 13th that would be honoring our veterans, but also our first responders. So this would involve, and we're still working through the details on that. We just had prelim discussions here earlier this week. But what that would involve would we have a dedication ceremony for the veterans and first responders memorial first, with a community event to follow. Again, we'll release details as we do get that. We're working on trying to plan and working through a couple of the DDAs that are available to also assist with that. But we do have buy-in with the cities. Like I said, we met with the cities the other day to try to do that, and also the chamber. This will be a great opportunity. I think that it is important for us to have community development and have these type of things available for the citizens so that they can come together. And we're not going to step on the toes of any of the cities. We did make sure as we looked at this that it wasn't a date that interfered with anything the cities are doing. Okay. So we all agreed to that date of November 13th. So I think that would be a great event for the county. So we'll be looking forward to that, and we'll release more information about that as we move forward.
And we are still doing the sales for the bricks and for the first responder tiles.
That's right. So,
okay.
And that can be found on our website. So if you still go to our website, on the opening page of it at the very bottom, you'll see brick sale on it. So we are still selling those, and the tiles will be sold as well for the first responders memorial as well.
Okay. Any others?
That's it.
Okay. I just want to remind everybody we're going to have a work session on Tuesday, June the 29th, and that'll be here at the Justice Center beginning at 6 o'clock. Our regular monthly meeting for July has been moved from Monday, July 5th, that's the first Monday it would normally fall on, to the following week, which would be Monday, July the 12th, and it, of course, will also be here at the Justice Center. This past week has been Clerk Appreciation Week, and we want to take this time to let our clerk, Ms. Finger, know that we appreciate everything she does for the county and the Board of Commissioners. So thank you. We appreciate it very much. Okay, Commissioner Franklin, do you have any announcements? Commissioner Foster?
No.
Commissioner Swales? Commissioner Western? Okay. All right, the last item is to adjourn. So at this time, is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Wester's made the motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Foster has seconded the motion. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. The motion will carry 4-0, and we stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight.